Asia is celebrated worldwide for its booming economies, breathtaking cultures, and fast-rising skylines. But behind the glittering towers and neon lights lies a darker truth. Families whose names rarely appear in history books, yet whose power shapes entire nations. These are not ordinary families. They are dynasties built on crime, money, and fear. They are the richest criminal families in Asia. This video is not just another story. It is a revelation, because without understanding these hidden dynasties, you can never truly understand Asia's politics, its underground economies, or the shadow networks that influence everything from business to government. Consider this. Some of these families generate billions of dollars each year, more than the national budgets of smaller countries. Their wealth is not created through innovation or industry, but through drug empires, gambling syndicates, arms smuggling, and money laundering pipelines that stretch across continents. And yet, despite the scale of their operations, the law almost never touches them. Why? Because in many cases, the law itself bends to protect them. In the next few minutes, we will uncover secrets that governments prefer to bury. We will reveal how one family rose from small-time smuggling to becoming silent partners of global cartels. We will see how gambling kings in the Philippines turned their fortunes into political dynasties. We will travel into the alleys of Karachi, the neon districts of Hong Kong, and the fortified neighborhoods of Tokyo to meet the underworld's most feared names. These stories are not tales of survival. They are stories of empires. Empires hidden in plain sight, where luxury villas overlook poverty-stricken streets, and where billion-dollar fortunes are built on the suffering of ordinary people. These dynasties don't just break the law. They rewrite the rules of power itself. Ask yourself this. What happens when a family becomes richer than the state meant to govern them? What happens when criminal wealth is so deeply embedded in politics, business, and even culture that no one dares to speak their name aloud? That is the reality we are about to explore. This is why you cannot skip this video. Because if you don't know how these families operate, you will never understand how crime has evolved from back-alley thugs into billion-dollar dynasties. Stay with us until the end, because the story you are about to hear is not just about Asia's underworld. It is about how power itself can be hijacked, reshaped, and hidden behind the facade of respectability. Dawood Ibrahim's name is synonymous with power, fear, and the rise of organized crime in South Asia. Born in Mumbai, he began his criminal career as a small-time smuggler, operating in the city's underworld during the 1970s and 1980s. Over time, Dawood expanded his operations and founded what came to be known as D Company, a sprawling network that functioned more like a multinational corporation than a street gang. Through D Company, Dawood consolidated control over smuggling, extortion rackets, illegal real estate deals, arms trafficking, and drug trade routes that stretched far beyond India's borders. His organization became a shadow state, with its own hierarchy, financial channels, and enforcement wings. In 1993, after the devastating Mumbai bombings, Indian authorities accused Dawood of planning and financing the attacks, turning him into India's most wanted man. Shortly afterward, he fled the country, first to the Middle East and later to Karachi, Pakistan, where intelligence reports suggest he re-established his base of operations. Over the years, Dawood has been linked to lavish properties in Dubai and Pakistan, high-level political connections, and a network that continued to thrive despite global pressure. The United Nations, Interpol, and the United States have all designated Dawood Ibrahim as a global terrorist. His personal fortune is estimated in the billions, with assets in real estate, front companies, and international smuggling networks. Even today, his name evokes fear and intrigue, a reminder of how one man transformed from a street hustler into a transnational crime lord. Dawood's legacy illustrates how deeply organized crime can embed itself into politics, business, and society when left unchecked. In the heart of Karachi lies Lyari, a densely populated district often described as a city within a city. For decades, Lyari was a place where the state's presence was weak, and local power brokers ruled through fear and loyalty. At the center of this power structure rose Uzair Jan Baloch, a man who would become both the most feared gangster and, paradoxically, a local hero to many. Uzair's rise began as part of the Lyari gang, a criminal network involved in drug trafficking, arms smuggling, extortion, and kidnappings. Under his leadership, the gang transformed from a loose collection of street thugs into an organized force capable of challenging law enforcement and rival factions. Lyari became a stronghold, with narrow alleys fortified, snipers positioned on rooftops, and bunkers dug under homes to hide weapons and cash. But Uzair was not just a gang leader. He played the role of a community patron, distributing rations during Ramadan, funding local football clubs, and organizing mass weddings. This dual identity, ruthless enforcer and benefactor, made him a complicated figure. For some, he was a savior who provided security in a neglected neighborhood. For others, he was the reason Lyari became a war zone. Politicians sought Uzair's support during elections, trading protection and political cover for votes. At his peak, his influence extended beyond Karachi, reaching into Balochistan and even the Gulf, where he reportedly invested millions in real estate. Uzair's arrest in 2016 shocked the country, revealing a web of political connections, offshore wealth, and intelligence ties. His story stands as a stark reminder of how crime, politics, and community life can merge to create power structures that rival the state itself. In Southeast Asia, few stories illustrate the merger of crime, politics, and power as clearly as the rise of the so-called gambling kings of the Philippines. This powerful family began with a small, underground lottery game and, over decades, built an empire so vast that entire provinces came under their influence. The story begins in the 1970s and 1980s, when Uteng, an illegal numbers game, became deeply embedded in Filipino neighborhoods. To many poor communities, Uteng was more than gambling. It was hope. The family saw opportunity and moved quickly, organizing the game, standardizing payouts, and putting local police and municipal officials on their payroll. Bribes ensured that no raids disrupted operations, and their agents spread across towns and villages, collecting bets openly. As profits grew, the family professionalized its network. They expanded into illegal casinos, then invested in legitimate resorts and poker rooms in Manila and Cebu. Soon, their name was tied to some of the country's largest entertainment venues, blurring the line between legal business and organized crime. They poured money into construction, logistics, and real estate, creating front companies to clean and legitimize their gambling profits. But gambling was not their only source of income. Intelligence reports linked the clan to methamphetamine smuggling operations, using the Philippines' sprawling coastlines as entry points. The combination of gambling revenues and drug money made them nearly untouchable. By the 1990s, politicians sought their backing during elections. Their support could deliver an entire province's votes. And in exchange, the family received protection from law enforcement and priority access to lucrative contracts. The family understood that power was not just built with fear, but with loyalty. They sponsored charity drives, donated to orphanages, and handed out scholarships to underprivileged youth. They appeared at religious festivals, gave large cash gifts during Christmas, and positioned themselves as the community's benefactors. For many residents, they became a paradox, a source of both fear and stability, punishment and protection. Despite repeated attempts to dismantle their empire, nothing stuck. Police raids seized slot machines, cash, and records, but within weeks the operations resumed. Witnesses turned hostile, cases fell apart in court, and investigators often faced threats or bribes. When the family patriarch passed away, power shifted to his sons, who took the empire to a new level. They abandoned the loud, public displays of gambling dens and transitioned much of the business online, running offshore gaming platforms that served clients across Asia. Today, the family's empire is quieter, but far more sophisticated. Their money moves through offshore accounts and shell corporations in Macau, Singapore, and Hong Kong, making it nearly impossible to trace. Their influence is deeply entrenched in local politics, and their reputation remains a blend of fear and admiration. The gambling kings are a striking example of how crime can evolve into a parallel economy. What began as a back-alley numbers game is now a billion-dollar machine that outlasts governments, survives scandals, and continues to shape the Philippines from the shadows. No exploration of Asia's criminal dynasties would be complete without the infamous triads, the secretive, ritualistic societies that have ruled Hong Kong's underworld and influenced southern China for generations. The triads are not a single gang, but a network of tightly organized families, each with its own leaders, codes, and territories. Together, they represent one of the most enduring criminal empires in modern history. Their roots reach back to the 18th century, when revolutionary brotherhoods formed to resist the Qing dynasty. What began as patriotic resistance gradually transformed into organized criminal enterprises. By the 20th century, Hong Kong, then a British colony, became the heart of triad power. The city's booming ports and rapidly expanding neighborhoods gave them perfect cover to build an empire that controlled street gambling, prostitution rings, protection rackets, and black market smuggling routes. Each triad was structured like a miniature kingdom. At the top sat the dragon head, the undisputed leader, supported by the deputy mountain master, incense master, and red poles, enforcers tasked with carrying out orders and protecting the organization's interests. New members were not casually recruited. They were initiated in elaborate ceremonies involving blood oaths, sacred oaths of loyalty, and symbolic rituals designed to bind them for life. During the 1970s and 1980s, the triads became dominant players in the global heroin trade. Using the Golden Triangle as their source, they shipped massive quantities of narcotics through Hong Kong's ports and onto the streets of Europe and North America. The profits were staggering. When law enforcement cracked down, they adapted with brutal efficiency, shifting to synthetic drugs, human trafficking, illegal gambling dens, and even cybercrime. Their influence stretched far beyond the underworld. In Hong Kong, they developed close ties to film studios, music labels, and the property market. Film producers were sometimes forced to cast certain actors or pay protection money just to get a movie released. Politically, they became a force during elections, mobilizing votes in working-class districts and offering security during protests. Across mainland China, they forged alliances with corrupt officials and businessmen, providing muscle for land seizures and construction projects worth billions. Internationally, triad families expanded to Chinatowns in Vancouver, San Francisco, Sydney, and London, turning them into hubs for smuggling networks, money laundering operations, and gambling syndicates. What makes the triads uniquely resilient is their decentralized structure. Arrest one dragon head, and another quietly steps into place. Their code of silence is ironclad, their loyalty enforced by fear and centuries-old tradition. Today, the triads may be quieter, but they are not gone. They have traded back-alley shootouts for boardrooms, laundering their fortunes through shipping firms, trade companies, and real estate projects that span Asia and beyond. Yet the old rituals still matter, and their shadow still looms over Hong Kong's neon-lit streets and China's booming cities. They remain proof that when crime becomes generational, it ceases to be just crime. It becomes an invisible empire, hidden in plain sight, too deeply rooted to erase.